Hello everybody, welcome back. As the title suggests, this is going to be an unboxing, this is going to be a review, a first impressions, and a try-on for Killstar. And as you probably recall from my last Killstar video, I was incredibly surprised when they contacted me and asked me if they could gift me 10 more items after Smurfageddon 2023. As you can imagine, I said, yeah. So I chose a bunch of items and I don't remember what I chose. And what I love about that is that when you don't remember the things that you pick, because like so much life happened in between and my day-to-day is just chock full of everything. So it just leaves a lot of fun little particles that will get in between the spaces between A and B, and then you will forget B, which is a good thing because now it's like Christmas. So I'm going to open this up. It is a literal box and I'm very excited about seeing what's inside, and I'm going to give you a very, very honest review about everything that I see. As per usual, when I do any kind of review video when it comes to clothing or anything that is potentially something that you would be looking to purchase, I want to be as honest as humanly possible because I understand the cost of living situation, and I know that sometimes it's a toss-up between like groceries and rent with a lot of people. So when you gather up the cash and you have like your splurge, you don't want to be disappointed, and I don't want you to be disappointed either. So apologies to Killstar, but if something sucks, I'm going to tell you it sucks. So without further ado, let's get this thing going. Let's have a peek, and I'm gonna open up this box. It's right here, a little bit heavy, so I'm not gonna put it on my lap. Maybe I'll put it on my lap, let me see. If I don't sit with my feet under my butt, I suddenly look like I should be at the kids' table. So it looks like everything is it came with a note. So let's see. It's a sticker. Once an Addams, always an Addams. And Carrie. That movie scared the crap out of me when I was a kid. My mom loved it though. It was her heyday, it was the 70s. And it's just basically ads for the different lines that they have, because I guess they do the Addams Family one. They have the Carrie one. Yeah. Yeah, it's basically just promotional stuff for the different lines that they have like that. So I'm gonna try to not blow your eardrums out with the sounds. So this hair gets in everything and I don't want it to get in this box. So without further ado, I'm gonna So the first thing we have, I hope, yes, okay. These are leggings. So there's a few things that I want to make note of. Firstly, I hope they fit me well. I went with an extra small because they didn't have a small on their site. They were all sold out. So if I do the try-on and my butt is just bursting out of these things, just know I went a size smaller than I usually go to. Another thing to note, I noticed that it is the Telltale material. We have here the Telltale fabric. If you remember from my last video when I dyed myself blue, it is that velvet burnout damask. That was the culprit. So let's see if it has the label. Yep, here it is. So it says here, you see this warning label? If you get a Killstar item and it comes with this warning label, take heed. It says, warning, this garment has been over-dyed to make it as black as your soul. This product may transfer color onto lighter colored fabrics and surfaces. Please take care when worn. Always wash with darker colors. So take that seriously. They definitely underplayed it. It turned me blue. You want to wash these by hand. I would recommend washing them by hand in a sink, but you're going to want to bleach the sink afterward because you'll dye the sink. But the dye is very, very strong. Definitely wash this prior to wearing, and you want to give it a good thorough wash. I would say a good 2 washes by hand. Wash, rinse, drain out the sink, and then do it a second time just to be sure, because they will dye you. But as far as the way that they're constructed, it's a really good sturdy velvet. So we have a bit of horizontal, oh, I pulled it too tight. What did I do? I heard a thread snap. All right, so I won't be doing that again, but I want to check the seams just to be sure. Everything is serged. It's always a plus when a serger is employed, and we have that here. So let's check stretch. So we have some vertical stretch. And we have the very necessary horizontal stretch. I don't know why I like to smell things. Yeah, these look well made. There is a transparency to them, so I know I'm gonna have to wear something underneath them because I know that nobody's gonna wanna see me walking around with my butt cheeks flapping in the wind. However, that being said, I have this kind of pet peeve. I could never wear leggings without a top or a tunic over it that doesn't cover my butt. It's gotta cover my butt at the very least. It just feels weird wearing leggings with a top any shorter than like top of the butt cheek. That's just weird. It's gotta cover the butt. I love the fun surprises. Sweater. Any warning notices? Okay, so what we have, this is a tunic, and this is the perfect thing that I was suggesting that would be worn with leggings. So I'm gonna kind of stand up and show you. So you can already feel the difference because I do a lot of fast fashion hauls, and I like to do budget things because I understand people living within the confines of a very restricted budget. So I want to do things that are in line with what you can afford. So doing things like this, like hauls for things that are a little bit more pricey, you can feel the difference in the quality of fabric that's used. So if it were, say, any of the other fast fashion companies, I would be able to like kind of blindly tell the difference. If you were to kind of put a sweater from one company in my hand versus this, I could tell the difference. So there is definitely a quality difference, so you would be getting your money's worth there. So the whole structural chaos, which is something I absolutely love, is that you have a very simple kind of, it's a little bit of a mock neck. Is it a mock neck? No, it's a, so we have a turtleneck tunic. It's a straight turtleneck. It's not a roll neck, it just goes straight up to here. So we have a turtleneck tunic. In construction, it is very structured. However, what they've done is they've tattered the edges. Neckline, sleeves, and the bottom. So this is a perfect example of structured chaos. And structured chaos to me is a garment that is structured in precisely the way that it should. Like for example, we have a turtleneck tunic. Nothing really remarkable about the construction. It is exactly the way it should be, nothing asymmetrical. Over what was done to it, it was done in a little bit of a looser knit, which means it has somewhat transparency to it, and then the edges have been tattered. So when you have things that are employing the whole concept of structured chaos, I can see something like a goth mom getting away with something like this, because it's something that is very polished and put together, but it still has that edge that makes you feel very much in your skin. And that's not to say that goth moms can't wear whatever the heck they want. Absolutely you can, but I know that sometimes it's easier to tone it down, and this is kind of one of those things that make me think of that. For myself, hoping to be a goth mom very soon, fingers crossed. Have an update about that coming. This is something that I will definitely hold on to. Oh, and something else. I loved this fact when I found this out. Do you see this bit here? I don't know why this excites me so much. I hope that you can see this. Why is my camera so horrifying right now? See that? See that seam? So that seam, that is sewn with yarn. So they actually take the yarn that this is made with and then they sew with it. I'm not familiar with knits. I make clothing by hand with other fabrics. I do things like satins. I've worked with silk. I've worked with a lot of cotton jersey knit. That's my favorite, but I've never worked with knits. This is something that reminded me of the 90s in a very Bjork way. And holding it in my hands and feeling the weight of it, I'm really impressed by the quality of this fabric. If this had sleeves and you went outside in the dead of winter, you would sweat. This is something that is perfect for the season, and I'm obsessed with it already, and I haven't stood up and looked at it. Let me show you. It is a very heavy knit maxi dress. So this is a kind of 90s inspired slip dress, and it's done in a very heavy knit. I'm curious to know what the fabric is. It's very, very soft. I know it's not cashmere, but it feels like cashmere. But then again, it's also a little bit too thick to be cashmere. All right. Oh, fabric content. Here it is. See how far off with the fabric content I was. It is no, I don't read Russian. Although I would like to try. It is viscose. Polyamide and viscose. Polyamide is actually one I'm not 100% familiar with, but the viscose I am. I've worked with viscose before, and given the amount probably used for stretch, there's good stretch to this. It seems like it might be an even 4-way stretch. I get cold very, very easily. I have hypothyroidism, so I am cold in the summertime. And come winter time, come fall, I'm looking for any kind of warmth that I can possibly find. And one of the things that sucks when it gets cold is that you kind of have to pile all the clothes on. And sometimes you want to dress nicely and you want that to be seen. And it's kind of like, what's the point when you have to pile all of these other layers on top of it just so that you don't go outside and get hypothermia? But with something like this, like the thickness of it, it gives me a little bit of hope because it's warm enough that I wouldn't be so cold. I'd still be cold, but I wouldn't be so cold that I would be literally disassociating and shaking, which I have done. I just go off into space. Whenever I'm cold and I'm stuck in a space that I'm going to be cold for a while, I'm gone. I could see the buttons through this, and I remember exactly what this is. It made me think of Miss Mary Mac, even though it's red buttons and not silver. So this is a chiffon, and it's definitely going to be a whole lot of synthetic material considering that it was folded up and didn't wrinkle, because if you had something that was more silk based, this would be wrinkled up to no end. So I want to first get a load of the fabric content for people who might be fabric sensitive. And also, I know that a lot of you are a little bit touch sensitive with certain things, like kind of certain things give you a little bit of the cringe factor. So this, it does have a slight silkiness to it, but there's also a little bit of stiffness as well. It's not like that Halloween fabric. It's definitely a lot higher quality, so it's not something that you could touch and then immediately want to wipe your hands off. You know, when you touch something and then you take your hand away and you still feel it on your hands? I'm not getting that with this. But I'm still curious as to the fabric content. There we go. It's 100% polyester. And that just kind of proves the point that not all polyesters are created equal, because I have so many different garments that are polyester, and if you put them in a lineup, they look like entirely different fabrics altogether. because for many years when I thrifted, I always thought polyester was that very thick, coarse fabric that didn't breathe, and when you wore it for more than 10 minutes, mixed with like, you know, your body's chemistry and started to smell like hot eggs. Not a pretty smell. So I want to stand up and show this to you. It's a maxi length dress, and it has like the red buttons down it, and the red buttons have like this kind of pearlescent sheen to it, which is really cool. Long sleeve, slight bishop sleeve to it, but it kind of gives me a Victorian feels. I'm excited to try this one on. I don't know if it makes me more modest, but I tend to gravitate toward things, and my aesthetic tends to be things that are more oversized. I like things that are baggy, and I like to accessorize them, kind of pull them in the waist with a really cool belt, a lot of necklaces, and accessorize them with jewelry. I also like off the shoulder quite a lot. I love things that are off the shoulder, and that tends to be what I gravitate toward. I mean, tight things can be nice, they have their place, but I'm gonna be a hell of a lot more comfortable. Like, you put things in a lineup, I'm gonna go for the baggy thing every time. Since this is a sheer kind of fabric and it can snag a little bit easier, I just want to look and see how it's made. Because these buttons, we know these buttons all too well. They have been known to pop off. But they look like they're sewn on well. I don't want to do anything too tight. Luckily they're ornamental, so it's not something you have to open and close to where it's more likely to pop off. So you can just slip this right on because of that. So I don't really foresee any issues with these buttons popping off. But with this, I would definitely wash by hand. Keep this away from the washer, away from the dryer. With everything, you kind of want to air dry everything because it's going to prolong the life of your stuff. I would recommend this. After I do the try on, I'm going to put something at the very end if I have a change of heart based on how things looked or how they felt, or if anything happened structurally, if anything ripped or anything popped that shouldn't have, and I'll let you know. All right, little confession, I'm obsessed with Stevie Nicks' aesthetic. I love Stevie Nicks. I love the way she looks, the way she dresses. And I saw this dress and I was like, Stevie Nicks dress. You're gonna know what I mean in a second. Ready? Doing the once over here. This is a bit thinner of a material. It's nice, it's light, but it's not as high quality as the other stuff. Now that being said, it doesn't feel in any way costumey. Just different from the other things. When you do the ends like this as opposed to a regular straight hem where you fold over and then just hem it that way, this is going to give you more of a flowy look. It's going to be less structured, less straight, and it's going to be more, see, billowy. Has lace panels sewed in. I am definitely conditioned from fast fashion because I'm marveling at how straight this is sewn. And what I mean by fast fashion is like the cheaper stuff. This also has those buttons where these would pose a little bit more of a pop-off risk, and the reason is these are ones you're going to have to use because you're going to need it to gain entry. Unless you go a size up. I think I might have sized up with this. Maybe not. I did not. So this one you're going to have to be a little bit more careful because it has those buttons. It has these buttons. And since you're going to need to use these for entry because it's not something that could be easily slipped on. So it's something that's going to get constant tension. You're going to have a little bit more of a risk of these guys popping off. But a useful tip is to learn how to sew on buttons. I know that a lot of you know how, but some people don't. But don't be overwhelmed. It's a surprisingly easy task. It's a 2-second job, and once you learn, you can save a lot of pieces that way. Save yourself a lot of hassle as well. I know what this fabric reminds me of. This fabric reminds me of not the slips of the 90s, but the 90s. You know how the 90s were like a step up? It wasn't that like cheap nylon-y, but it was a bit of a step up. And it was that like non-wrinkle but silky material that felt nice against your skin. That's what this reminds me of. It reminds me of that. That's why it's so thin. But also, I guess like the thin quality of it is going to give it more billowiness. So I guess that's like part of the design that's going to make it kind of flow. But again, I'll know better when I try it on. I don't see anything structurally wrong with this. The only issue that I can foresee you having in the future are these buttons, because you're going to have to use them. And every time you apply tension, you're increasing the risk that they're just going to go boop. Right. Using the same lights I always do, but they're washing me out today. Upsetting. Oh, I did get this. Never gotten anything with a collar quite like this. It's very dramatic and kind of here for it. Did I go a size up with this? No, I didn't. I'm surprised. I usually size up because I'm bigger chested. I'm smaller everywhere else, but bigger chested, and particularly the things that have buttons on them. If I just kind of give it one of these, I will pop them buttons right off so fast. You booby girls, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This has a chain on it. Oh, I didn't know it came with a chain. So I'm gonna have to pull this off, but I love long layered robes that go over things. Like you can take like a solid black dress or something very plain, or even just some leggings or solid black top. Keep it really simple and accessorized, but then throw something like this over it. It has a hood. Can't really see it very well. We'll know in the try on. It has that kind of stretchy mesh beach cover-up quality to it. Here is the chain that goes around the waist. I'm not sure if I'm going to wear it with the chain. I want to accessorize it myself because that's where all the fun comes from. So this is hemmed at the bottom. So again, when things are hemmed at the bottom like this, they want it to be more of a structured sort of look as opposed to the serge, which is going to give it that more flowy look. Yeah, structurally, I think this is really sound. I like the way that it has like really good stretch. And this is sturdy. This is just one of those stretch meshes that are kind of in it for the long haul. We all have that one kind of power mesh stretch piece that you can wear it in the rain, you could jump in a pool, you can do anything, and it doesn't go anywhere. So this is one of those things, and it's made from 95% polyester and 5% elastane. And when you see anything that has elastane or lycra content to it, it's always going to be anywhere between 4 and 6%. And when that's added to an item, it's there to add stretch. And that's why it has that kind of stretchiness to it. Oh, I saw the collar and thought, all right, doggy? Okay. This is in that same fabric as the Miss Mary Mac dress that I called it, where it has a slight stiffness to it, but it still has a somewhat silky quality, but it doesn't give me that kind of feel where I'm like, ugh, get it off me. Because some fabrics have that quality to it. It's an almost costumey fabric, but this one, yeah, it doesn't give me that. Doesn't really wrinkle either, so that's a good quality. I kind of stepped a little bit outside my comfort zone with the collars on these, so I'm not sure how I'm gonna style them. It's something new, and you know what? It's always good to try new things. Has bell sleeves, and this is a slightly thinner hem. This is more of a roll hem, and it's ended quite neatly. Just be careful. This is exactly the sleeve and the sleeve length that doorknobs like to attack. And it's always when you're in a rush. You go to enter and exit a room, and then suddenly it gets caught on the doorknob every time. I have a dress that happens to every time. I need to fix it because every time I do it, it rips more and more on the seam. But just be aware with doorknobs, these things just love to attack doorknobs, or doorknobs love to attack them. I'm not sure. It's just like a personal preference. I love when they have a seam down the back. It's bouncy. It's like a very bouncy fabric. It's this stretchy lace, and it has this incredible bounce to it. It looked like it was going to be stiff and firm. So I saw this dress, and it gave me Dark Witch in the Village vibes. You'll know what I mean in a second. It has a neckline that I wouldn't normally go for, but it looked like it could be interesting. So the sleeves are a little bit princessy. Doesn't have that puff to it, but it's got like a little bit of the gathers here. So it's not something that's a little bit over the top. I know, like with myself and a lot of other people, once they see like a slight poof sleeve, they're instantly put off. So it doesn't look like it's that bad. It looks a little bit more like it's just for silhouette rather than effect. So that should be good. And it has bell sleeves instead. And what I mean by instead is when you see something that has this kind of this Victorian inspired silhouette, you would expect it to have different sleeves, maybe bishop sleeves with a thicker cuff, but they went with bell sleeves, which that could be very fun. But again, this will get you into a fight with a doorknob, so just be careful. It's got this really stretchy bounce to it that's actually pretty pleasant. Let's check stretch. Okay, what's weird about it is it stretches more vertically than it does horizontally. And normally, like I said, we want the stretch to be this way because you want it to stretch with you. But lengthways it works too because that works more for movement. But I think maybe that was to keep the stripes vertical as opposed to horizontal, because sometimes horizontal stripes, they're not very flattering, and I think for this particular cut, I don't think that horizontal stripes would have worked. I think the vertical stripes work better. Boing, boing. It's very springy. I can safely say I have no idea what this is. Oh, I know exactly what this is. This reminded me of old school early 2000s lip service. And there is a line that they did. The reason that I grabbed this and I was really interested in it is because it had kind of a modern take on an old 2000s line from lip service. And I used to be a big freak for lip service. So let's see here. What I really like is the simplicity of this. So it's not anything crazy or anything over the top, and it's something that you could kind of use to be a very neutral party to let your accessory speak for itself. The sleeves are very basic, but there's little kind of hints in there that make it cool. Like, check this out. Thumb holes. I'm a sucker for thumb holes. I love them. It is two-way stretch, which is good. Good breathable fabric. And I like the fact that it has like a pixie hem, because that's the one feature, despite the fact that this is a very simplistic design, that's the one feature that gives it that little bit of edge, is that pixie hem. And you can really wear this with anything. I like the versatility to it. And check this out. This detail. They really paid attention to the knit of this fabric when joining the seams. So as you can see, it creates kind of a chevron effect, but they weren't careless with it. They actually paid attention to the direction of the fabric, and that's something that I could really appreciate. So not only did they complement the rib knit by having it join together and create that kind of chevron effect, but they made the ribs join up as a whole. So the fact that each rib meets perfectly like that, it's a little detail that I could really appreciate, and that definitely shows that they put more care and more effort into these things. Do these buttons work? They're snaps and they work. Let me do the fabric. Fabric is, it is 94% viscose and 6% elastane. So again, the elastane is added for that stretch. I believe that's everything. So after going through everything as it stands, I would recommend everything in this box as being worth the price. And I'm always a little bit wary when it comes to that kind of thing, and you always have to be more careful when it's something that is a bit more pricey, because when you're stepping outside of your budget or you're giving yourself that one splurge, it needs to be worth it. So that opinion, I need to make note, might change once I try the clothes on, because once I put it on, I see the way it fits. I want to know if there's any structural images. I'm gonna move around in it quite a lot, and I wouldn't expect that you would put this on and just sit still. So I'm gonna give it the amount of movement that you would expect, and if I find any issues, I'm gonna tell you about it. So after I do the try on, keep an eye for after the video and see if I have any additional comments about the garments or anything like that. But as for care instructions, what you really want to do to prolong the life of any garment, and I think that with absolutely everything, it's preferable to hand wash. But if you can't hand wash, you can wash in the washing machine, but do it on cold, always on cold. You never want to introduce heat to anything, because heat is going to destroy. Heat is going to weaken the structural integrity. Heat is going to fade the things faster. It's going to shrink things. You want to keep it away from heat in general. So what I would recommend is either hand wash, or you can wash in the machine, but on cold. Now, no dryer. Dryers, and pretend your dryer doesn't even exist. You want to air dry them. That's the best way to go about it, and that will help prolong the life of pretty much anything. And it's also helpful to learn a basic stitch if you need to replace buttons, if a seam goes on anything. This goes for anything, not just things in this box, but just in general. And that one little skill could save a bunch of garments that you might have otherwise thrown away. So first I'm going to clean up my living room, and then I'm going to try these on and give you a kind of first look, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we don't have any structural issues. With this dress, you're going to want to size up if you're a bit more broad in the shoulders or have a larger chest. My first impression was incorrect when I said that the buttons were ornamental. They're definitely not ornamental. You're going to want to undo a whole bunch if you want to get it on or off. And as you can see from the top button, that one that's hanging on for dear life, this size was not equipped for a larger bust. I also have a bit of a broad back, so I couldn't lift my arms very well without feeling that tension in the armpits and the upper back. If I wasn't gentle, I definitely would have busted the seams. So from the underbust downward, it felt perfectly fine. So it is true to size if you don't have a larger chest or broad back. So if you really like this one, it's best to size up. And if you're not particularly good with sewing and the waist requires pulling in, I think these bad boys deserve a renaissance. They're definitely useful.